In the shadowed underbelly of Chicago's bustling docks, where the air hung heavy with the tang of rust and river brine, a forgotten woman with no name and no past collided with the most dangerous man in the city. She punched him square in the face, raw, uncalculated fury from a mind wiped clean. And in that defiant spark, something unbreakable ignited. Now, the Mafia boss who ruled with iron fists claims her as his own, but secrets from her fractured memory threaten to unravel his empire. And their unexpected bond. The rain-slicked alley behind the warehouse pulsed with the distant hum of freight trucks idling under sodium lights. Elena, no, that wasn't her name, was it? The thought flickered like a faulty bulb in her mind. Stumbled through the puddles, her bare feet numb against the cold concrete. She didn't know how she'd gotten here, only that the world had shattered into shards. Flashes of pain, screams echoing off metal walls, and then nothing. Her head throbbed, a relentless drumbeat, and her clothes, torn jeans and a soaked jacket, clung like accusations. Who was she? Why did the shadows feel like they were closing in? She pressed against a stack of weathered crates, the wood splintering under her palms, inhaling the sharp scent of diesel and decay. Footsteps echoed from the mouth of the alley. Heavy, deliberate, not the frantic patter of someone lost like her. Panic surged, instinct overriding the fog in her brain. She grabbed a loose pipe from the ground, its weight cold and reassuring, and waited. The man who emerged was no ordinary thug. Tall, broad-shouldered with a tailored coat that screamed money amid the grit, he moved like he owned the night. His face, sharp-jawed and shadowed by a day's stubble, scanned the darkness with predatory calm. Behind him, two figures hung back. Security, she guessed. Their postures tense, hands near concealed holsters. He was saying something low into a phone, his voice a gravelly rumble that cut through the drizzle. Find the manifest. Every shipment from the East Docks. No loose ends. Elena's breath hitched. Loose ends. The words tugged at something buried, a vague sense of pursuit, but it slipped away. He turned toward her hiding spot, and in a heartbeat, she lunged. The pipe connected with his arm instead of his head. Missed, damn it. And he spun, eyes locking on hers. Surprise flashed across his features, but before he could react, she swung again, this time with her fist. It landed clean on his jaw, a crack that echoed like gunfire in the narrow space. He staggered back, more from shock than force, his hand flying to his face. Blood trickled from a split lip, but he didn't roar or strike back. Instead, a low chuckle escaped him, dark and disbelieving. Who the hell are you? His men surged forward, guns half drawn, but he raised a hand, stopping them cold. Stand down. Elena froze, pipe still gripped tight, her chest heaving. Up close, he was even more imposing. Dark eyes piercing, a scar tracing his cheekbone like a warning. But there was no rage in his gaze, only a flicker of something else. Intrigue, maybe even admiration. She backed away, heart pounding. Stay away from me, she spat, voice hoarse from disuse. Who was this guy? Why hadn't he crushed her like a bug? He wiped the blood with his thumb, studying her as if she were a puzzle he'd been waiting to solve. Feisty for a ghost. You just decked Victor Russo. Most people beg before they swing. The name hit her like a wave. Russo. Whispers from half-remembered news clips, a kingpin whispered about in terrified tones. Mafia. The docks. The shipments. It all clicked into a terrifying picture. She was in way over her head. Victor's men exchanged glances, one muttering into a radio. Boss, we got a runner from the east side. Matches the description. Female. Disoriented. Victor silenced him with a look, then stepped closer, ignoring the rain that plastered his hair to his forehead. You don't know who I am, do you? Or why you're here? It wasn't a question. He glanced at her feet, the way she favored her left side. Injured. Amnesiac? That's what the chatter says. Some poor soul washed up after a bad night. Elena's mind reeled. Washed up? Like debris from the river? Fragments surfaced. Cold water, hands grabbing, a betrayal in the dark. But no faces, no names. I don't know anything, she admitted, hating the vulnerability. Just leave me alone. He tilted his head, that chuckle returning, softer now. Can't do that, sweetheart. You just made yourself memorable. He signaled his men, who approached cautiously, one offering a clean handkerchief for her hands, scraped from the crates. Victor's eyes never left hers. You're coming with us, not as a prisoner, as protection, until we figure out who wants you dead. She wanted to run, but her legs betrayed her, wobbling from exhaustion. The alley felt like a trap closing, the distant wail of sirens underscoring the peril. Why help her? What game was this? As they guided her toward a black SUV idling at the curb, its leather interior gleaming under the interior lights, Victor walked beside her. That punch, bold, stupid, but bold, reminds me of someone I used to know. His voice dropped, laced with an edge she couldn't place. Regret? Hunger? Inside the vehicle, the door clicked shut like a vault ceiling. The engine purred to life, and they pulled away from the docks, the warehouse lights fading in the rear view. Elena sank into the seat, the scent of polished leather and faint cologne overwhelming her senses. Victor sat across, dabbing his lip, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Name's Victor. And you? Even if you don't remember, we'll call you Elena for now. Fitz. She met his gaze, defiance sparking again. I don't need your names or your protection. But even as she said it, doubt crept in. Who was after her? And why did his presence feel less like a cage and more like a shield? The SUV merged into traffic, city lights blurring past. Victor's phone buzzed, a burner, she noted, the kind that couldn't be traced easily. He glanced at the screen, his expression hardening. Change of plans. We're not going to the penthouse. He leaned forward, voice urgent. Someone tipped off the feds about tonight's drop, and your face is on their radar now. Elena's pulse raced. Tipped off? By whom? As the car veered toward the industrial tunnels snaking under the city, she caught a glimpse in the side mirror. Headlights trailing too close, unblinking in the rain. Were they his enemies? Or hers? The tunnel entrance loomed, a black maw swallowing them whole. Victor's hand brushed hers, accidental or not. And in that touch, she felt the first pull of something dangerous, curiosity laced with fear. What had she stumbled into? And could she trust the man whose face she'd bruised to pull her out? The tunnel's concrete walls blurred into a monotonous gray as the SUV barreled forward, tires humming against the uneven asphalt. The air inside grew thicker, laced with the metallic tang of exhaust and the faint ozone of fluorescent lights flickering overhead. Elena gripped the door handle, her knuckles white, every jolt sending a fresh spike of pain through her side. Victor sat opposite, his posture rigid, eyes flicking between the rearview mirror and his phone. The trailing headlights, 2 sets now, relentless, danced in the side mirror like predators closing in. They're not ours, Victor said, his voice low and steady, cutting through the engine's growl. He tapped the driver's shoulder. Lose them. Take the East Fork, warehouse district. The man nodded, a burly type with a neck tattoo peeking from his collar, and wrenched the wheel. The SUV swerved into a narrower branch of the tunnel, the walls narrowing like a vice. Elena's stomach lurched. She wasn't buckled in, and the sudden turn pressed her against the leather. Who are they? She demanded, her voice sharper than intended. The amnesia fogged her past, but instinct screamed danger. Victor's punch-marked jaw tightened, a faint bruise blooming under the skin. her doing. He met her gaze, unyielding, but there was a spark there, something almost appreciative in the way he studied her defiance. Could be rivals. The Morettis have been sniffing around our shipments, or feds, if that tip was real. He pocketed the burner phone, its screen glowing with a cryptic message. Asset compromised. Eyes on East Dock. You showing up like that? Timing's too perfect. Someone wants you as leverage, or worse. Elena's mind raced, fragments teasing the edges of recall. A warehouse argument, voices raised over ledgers, a woman's silhouette fleeing into the rain. Was she part of this? A courier? A traitor? The thought twisted like a knife. Leverage for what? I don't even know my own name. Victor leaned back, the dim light casting shadows across his scar. That's what we'll find out. My code's simple. No innocence in the crossfire. You swung at me blind. Means you're fighting something bigger. I protect what's mine now. The possessiveness in his tone sent a chill down her spine, mingling with an unwelcome warmth. Mine, as if a single punch bound her to this shadowed empire. The SUV emerged from the tunnel into a sprawl of abandoned warehouses, the Chicago skyline a distant, jagged silhouette against the storm clouds. Rain pelted the windshield like gunfire, sodium lamps pooling orange on flooded streets. The driver killed the lights, navigating by memory through chain-link fences and rusted shipping containers. The trailing cars hesitated at the tunnel mouth, then split, one veering left, the other pressing on. Victor's second man in the passenger seat muttered into a radio. Perimeter secure? Check the manifests again. Any unregistered plates from the river access. Elena caught the exchange, her pulse quickening. River access. That tugged at the void in her head, cold water lapping at her skin. A splash, hands shoving her under. Drown to silence her? She glanced at Victor, who was watching her too closely, as if reading her thoughts. What if I'm not innocent? She whispered, the words tasting bitter. Autonomy clawed at her. She wasn't some damsel to be claimed, amnesia or not. He didn't flinch. Then we'll deal. But that fire in you, it's rare. Most run from my world. You ran into it. His hand hovered near hers on the seat, not touching, but close enough to feel the heat. The SUV screeched to a halt outside a nondescript building. A safe house, she guessed. Its windows blacked out, generators humming faintly in the back. Two more of Victor's men materialized from the shadows, rifles slung low, scanning the perimeter with tactical lights. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of dust and old coffee. Bare bulbs swung from exposed wires, illuminating a sparse room. A scarred wooden table piled with maps and encrypted laptops, a cot in the corner, and a wall safe humming softly. Victor's team fanned out, one checking feeds from hidden cameras, grainy footage of the docks, timestamps marking irregular boat arrivals. Boss, got a hit, the radio guy said, pulling up a file. Female, mid-20s, spotted near the East River bank 2 nights ago. No ID, but she matches chatter from a Moretti runner. Something about a stolen ledger, codes for the next big haul. Victor's eyes narrowed, flicking to Elena. Stolen or planted? He turned to her, voice dropping. Ring any bells, Elena? A book of numbers, maybe? Names crossed out? She shook her head, frustration boiling over. The fog resisted, but a vague image surfaced, ink on paper, hurried scribbles, a man's voice snarling. You think you can walk away with that? Her fists clenched. It's like echoes, but nothing solid. She paced the room, the cold floor seeping through her damp shoes, ignoring the ache in her ribs. Victor's gaze followed, protective yet probing, a push-pull that made her skin itch. He wanted answers, control. She craved escape, truth on her terms. A sharp crackle from the radio shattered the tension. Boss, incoming. 2 vehicles unmarked circling Block 2. They're jamming signals. Our cams are glitching. Victor cursed under his breath, grabbing a jacket from a hook. The safe house lights flickered, then steadied, but outside, thunder rolled, masking the growl of engines. Elena's heart hammered. This wasn't abstract anymore. The shadows outside shifted, figures moving, deliberate. "Get her to the back room," Victor ordered his men, but his eyes locked on hers. "Stay close. My code doesn't bend for threats." He drew a compact pistol from his waistband, checking the clip with practiced ease. The door rattled faintly, as if tested by wind or hands. Elena backed toward the inner door, grabbing a heavy flashlight from the table like a club. Trust him? Or fight alone? As the first shot echoed from the street, muffled by rain, she realized the real danger wasn't the amnesia. It was the man who'd fallen for her fury, and the empire unraveling around them. Who had jammed the signals, and what secrets did her fractured mind hold that could bring it all down? The safe house door buckled under the first real impact, a muffled thud that vibrated through the floorboards like a heartbeat gone wrong. Rain lashed the windows in sheets, blurring the world outside into a chaotic smear of shadows and sodium glow. Elena clutched the flashlight tighter, its metal grip slick with her sweat. As Victor positioned himself by the entrance, pistol raised. His men moved like ghosts, silent, efficient, barricading the side door with a heavy filing cabinet, while the radio crackled static, the jamming turning their comms into white noise. "Stay down," Victor hissed over his shoulder, his voice a low command that brooked no argument. But Elena didn't crouch. She edged toward the back room, eyes scanning the table for anything useful. A knife, a map, something to arm herself beyond this makeshift club. The air thickened with the acrid bite of gunpowder from the street, mingling with the musty dampness of the warehouse district. Her side throbbed, a dull reminder of whatever fall or fight had scrubbed her memory clean, but adrenaline sharpened everything else. The creak of floorboards under boots, the distant wail of a jammed siren cut short. A second crash splintered the doorframe, shards of wood flying inward. 2 figures burst through, masked, clad in black rain gear that dripped puddles on the threshold. They weren't amateurs. One swept low with a suppressed pistol, the other hefting a battering ram abandoned at his feet. Victor fired first, the shot a sharp cough in the confined space, dropping the lead intruder with a grunt. The second dove behind an overturned crate, returning fire that chipped plaster from the wall inches from Elena's head. She ducked, heart slamming, the flashlight beam slicing erratic light across the room. "Moretti's," one of Victor's men growled, wrestling with a jammed shotgun by the window. Saw the ink on the first one's wrist. Their mark. Victor didn't respond, just reloaded with fluid precision, his bruised jaw set like stone. Elena's mind raced, piecing fragments. Moretti's. Rivals to Russo's empire, hungry for the doc's smuggling routes. If she was tangled in a stolen ledger, this was payback. Her as the loose end, Victor as the prize. She couldn't just hide. Ducking low, she circled toward the table, snatching a burner phone from the pile. Its screen cracked but alive, displaying a partial text. Ledger secured. River drop confirmed. Eliminate witness. Witness. The word ignited a spark in the fog of her amnesia, a hazy vision of ledger pages fluttering in the rain, her hands stuffing them into a waterproof pouch before the shove into the current. Had she stolen it? For whom? The realization hit like cold water. She wasn't a victim. She was the threat. "Elena, back room, now!" Victor barked, spotting her movement. But as he turned, the second attacker lunged, tackling him to the ground. They grappled in a tangle of limbs, the pistol skittering across the floor. Elena's instinct kicked in. No time for doubt. She swung the flashlight like a bat, connecting with the intruder's shoulder in a solid crack that sent him sprawling off Victor. Pain jolted up her arm, but she didn't stop, kicking the gun toward Victor's hand. He snatched it up, ending the threat with a point-blank shot that echoed too loud in the small space. The body slumped, rain pooling around it, but outside, engines revved. More coming. Victor hauled himself up, breathing hard, his coat torn at the sleeve. For a split second, his eyes met hers, raw gratitude flashing before the mask slipped back. "That fire again," he muttered, almost to himself. "You're no ghost. You're a damn force." No time for words. His men hauled the door shut, wedging it with whatever they could, but the radio sputtered back to life briefly. "Boss, convoy en route. 5 minutes. Perimeter breach at the east fence." Victor grabbed her arm, not roughly but firm, pulling her toward the rear exit. "We move. Tunnels under the warehouse, old smuggling paths. They'll expect the street." Elena's pulse thundered as they slipped out the back, into a narrow alley slick with oil and runoff. The storm had worsened, wind whipping debris like shrapnel. The air heavy with the rumble of thunder masking approaching tires. Victor's hand stayed on her, guiding rather than dragging, a possessive anchor that chafed against her need to break free. "I can handle myself," she snapped, yanking away just as they reached a rusted manhole cover half hidden by crates. One of his men pried it open, revealing a ladder descending into darkness, the stench of stagnant water and mold rising like a warning. "Handle yourself into a grave, maybe," Victor shot back. But there was no venom. Only that edged concern, the same intrigue from the alley punch now laced with something deeper, unspoken. He descended first, flashlight from his pocket cutting a beam through the gloom. Elena followed, the ladder cold and slick under her palms, the safe house above erupting in muffled shouts and gunfire as the attackers breached. The tunnel was a labyrinth of concrete veins, dripping water echoing off walls etched with decades of graffiti and rust. Knee-deep sludge sucked at their boots, the chill seeping through her soaked clothes, numbing the ache in her ribs. Victor's team brought up the rear, one limping from a graze, their breaths ragged in the confined space. "Check the manifest when we surface," Victor ordered quietly into his radio, the signal faint but holding. "Cross-reference the river drop. Any Moretti boats logged 2 nights back." Elena trudged beside him, the beam of light bouncing off puddles that reflected their strained faces. Her mind clawed at the edges. The ledger. Not just numbers, but names. Russo allies crossed out, Moretti routes marked for hijack. She'd taken it to expose something, protect someone. But who? The push-pull gnawed at her. Victor's world offered safety, but at the cost of her autonomy, her secrets bent to his code. He glanced at her, rain-streaked hair framing eyes that held too much. Possession, yes, but also a vow. "Whatever you took, it started this. But you're not running alone anymore." A distant splash ahead froze them. Footsteps in the water, echoing from a junction. Victor killed the light, plunging them into inky black, the only sound their shallow breaths and the drip-drip of condensation. Elena's hand found his sleeve, not for support but readiness, the bond between them tightening like a noose. Were the footsteps Moretti's cutting them off, or echoes of her buried past closing in? If you're enjoying this story so far, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. The darkness in the tunnel pressed like a living thing, thick and suffocating, broken only by the sporadic drip of water from cracked pipes overhead. Elena's hand tightened on Victor's sleeve, the rough wool of his jacket grounding her amid the chaos of sloshing footsteps and ragged breaths. The echo ahead, deliberate splashes, not random, halted abruptly, as if whoever it was had sensed them too. Victor's body went still beside her, a coiled spring, his free hand hovering near the pistol tucked in his waistband. The air reeked of mildew and rust, undercut by the faint, sharp tang of gun oil from his weapon. 2, maybe 3, he whispered, voice barely audible over the distant rumble of thunder filtering through grates far above. "Stay behind me." His men fanned out in the gloom, one producing a small tactical light that he clicked on low, sweeping it in short bursts. Elena's pulse thrummed in her ears, the cold sludge soaking her jeans up to her calves, each step a sucking pull that threatened to drag her under. Autonomy warred with necessity. She wasn't helpless, but this labyrinth was no alley for a solo swing. Victor's presence loomed protective, possessive, his code wrapping around her like the tunnel walls. The light caught movement. Shadows shifting at the junction, figures detaching from the murk. Not Moretti's in full gear. These were leaner, quieter, with the jittery edge of hired muscle rather than prose. One raised a silenced pistol, the suppressor glinting wetly. Victor moved first, shoving Elena sideways into a shallow alcove as shots whispered through the air, plinking off concrete like deadly rain. His own fire answered, a muffled bark that dropped the lead pursuer into the water with a splash. Chaos erupted, shouts echoing, his men returning fire in controlled bursts, the tunnel amplifying every ricochet into a deafening roar. Elena pressed against the damp wall, heart hammering, the flashlight she'd salvaged from the safe house clutched like a lifeline. Fragments clawed at her mind, not just the ledger now, but faces. A stern woman in a dimly lit office, handing her the pouch with urgent whispers. Take it to the river contact, Rousseau's blind spot. Betrayal or duty? The memory teased, incomplete, fueling her resolve. She couldn't cower. Spotting a loose pipe jutting from the wall, rusted but solid, she wrenched it free, the metal groaning in protest. Victor's voice cut through the din. Flank left. Cover the junction. He was pinned behind a support beam, trading shots, his silhouette etched in flashes of muzzle fire. The second attacker lunged toward him, knife flashing. Elena didn't think. She surged forward, swinging the pipe in a wide arc that caught the man's arm with a sickening thud. He howled, dropping the blade, and Victor finished it with a precise shot. Water churned around the fallen body, turning pink in the erratic light. Breathing hard, Victor turned to her, eyes wide in the strobing glow. Not anger, but that same fierce admiration from the alley. You again, he said, low and rough, wiping sweat from his brow. Rainwater trickled from an overhead crack, mingling with the blood on his torn sleeve. Swinging like you own the fight. There it was, the pull, his gaze lingering too long, tracing the determination in her stance. Possession laced his words, but so did respect, a code that valued her fire over submission. Elena met his stare, the pipe heavy in her grip, her own breath coming in gasps. I do own it. Don't make me swing at you next. A ghost of a smile tugged at his bruised lip, quickly smothered as his man called out. Clear ahead, boss. But they're sealing the east exit. Heard the welders on the radio before it cut. Victor nodded, holstering his pistol and grabbing her elbow. Gentle this time, guiding rather than commanding. We pushed to the river grate, convoys topside, waiting for extraction. They moved as a unit, sludge splashing underfoot, the tunnel narrowing into a vein of exposed rebar and flickering emergency strips that buzzed like angry hornets. Elena's mind raced with the motion, memories bubbling up in fits, the ledger's weight in her coat, numbers decoding shipments of untraceable cash funneled through fake manifests. She'd been an inside woman. For the feds? A rival? The woman in the office. Your cover's blown. Get out, via the docks. Then the shove, the river's icy embrace erasing it all. Victor's world wasn't just a shield. It was the target. Victor, she said, voice tight as they rounded a bend, the air growing fresher with the hint of open water. The ledger. I think I took it from you. Or someone close. He didn't break stride, but his grip on her arm tightened fractionally, a flicker of betrayal crossing his features before resolve hardened it. From me? That explains the heat. No accusation, just fact. His code holding, loyalty tested but not broken. If it's true, you're deeper in this than I thought. But it changes nothing. We surface, then talk. No loose ends on my watch. The vulnerability in his tone surprised her. A man who ruled empires, felled by a punch, and now this fractured truth. The bond twisted. His possessiveness, a cage she both resented and craved. Her independence, a spark he couldn't extinguish. The tunnel ended at a rusted grate overlooking the riverbank, the Chicago night visible through bars warped by years of flood. Rain hammered the water below, waves lapping at concrete pilings slick with algae. Victor's team worked the lock, tools clinking softly, while distant shouts echoed back, pursuers regrouping. One man pulled a tablet from his pack, its screen glowing with a hacked feed. Security cams showing unmarked vans blocking the warehouse roads, plates traced to shell companies linked to Moretti fronts. "They're coordinating," he muttered. Got a burner signal bouncing off the docks. Someone inside feeding them our route. Inside. The word hit Elena like a wave. Her, or Victor's own circle cracking under pressure. As the grate creaked open, cold wind whipping in with the scent of brine and storm, Victor pulled her close for the climb. Not trapping, but bracing. "Whatever you remember, it stays between us until we're clear." His breath warm against her ear, the intimacy electric amid the peril. She nodded, but doubt gnawed. Trust him with her secrets, or wield them as her escape. They emerged onto the muddy bank, the river churning black under lightning flashes. The convoy's lights pierced the downpour, 3 SUVs idling behind a barrier of his men, engines humming low. But as Elena scrambled up, a new sound cut through. The whine of a drone overhead, its red eye blinking in the rain, scanning for heat signatures. Victor cursed, shoving her toward cover. "Tech sweep. Feds or Moretti's playing smart." The device hovered, unjammable at this range, its feed no doubt piping live to waiting forces. Who had launched the drone? And would her resurfacing memories doom them both before they could reach the vehicles? The drone's whine sliced through the storm like a predator's cry, its red light pulsing erratically as rain battered its frame. Elena crouched behind a cluster of weathered pilings on the riverbank, the mud sucking at her knees, the metallic scent of wet earth and diesel fuel thick in her nostrils. Victor pressed close beside her, his body a solid barrier against the wind-whipped waves crashing inches away. The Chicago skyline loomed across the dark water, a jagged crown of lights mocking their vulnerability. Too far for safety, too exposed for escape. His men's convoy idled 50 yards up the bank, headlights dimmed to slits, but the drone hovered directly overhead, its camera whirring as it scanned the terrain in thermal sweeps. "Down. Keep low," Victor murmured, his breath hot against her neck, one arm shielding her while his free hand signaled his team. The possessive curve of his body around hers felt both sheltering and confining, a reminder of the code that bound him. Protect at all costs, even if it meant claiming her in the crossfire. Elena's heart pounded, the resurfacing memories clawing deeper now. Not just fragments, but a name. Sophia. Was that her? A low-level accountant in Russo's operation, buried in manifests to spot the leaks. The ledger she'd swiped wasn't theft. It was evidence of embezzlement. Victor's own lieutenant siphoning funds to the Morettis. Betrayal from within, her shove into the river a desperate silencing. The drone dipped lower, its beam sweeping the bank like a searchlight, illuminating the convoy's outlines in ghostly green. One of Victor's men broke cover too soon, sprinting toward the lead SUV with a rifle raised. A burst of static crackled from the device. Not gunfire, but an electronic jammer kicking in, scrambling their radios mid-transmission. "Boss, it's feds. Registered to a task force van 2 blocks out," the man shouted before his voice cut to garble. Victor cursed under his breath, the bruise on his jaw darkening in the intermittent lightning. "They've got the drop. Moretti's tipped them, or vice versa. We split. 2 teams, flank the river road." Elena's mind reeled. the drone's hum vibrating through her bones. Sophia's memories flooded in sharper. Late nights poring over shipping logs in a dimly lit office. The hum of printers and the stale coffee scent masking her growing dread. Victor's second in command, Marco, had caught her sniffing too close. His snarl, the ledger ripped from her hands, the dockside betrayal under cover of night. She'd fought back, punching a guard before the plunge. And Victor, unwitting kingpin, his code of loyalty ironclad, blind to the rot in his ranks. "It's Marco," she whispered urgently, grabbing Victor's sleeve as they crawled toward a rusted shipping container for cover. "Your lieutenant. He's the leak. The ledger proves it. I was trying to get it to you." Victor's eyes snapped to hers in the shadows, surprise flickering before hardening into resolve. Rain plastered his hair, rivulets tracing the scar on his cheek, but he didn't pull away. "Marco, that snake." No denial, just a grim nod, his code demanding truth over blind faith. The admission hung between them, electric, pulling her closer despite the chaos. His hand found hers briefly, a squeeze that spoke volumes. Trust forged in fire, her independence not a threat, but a mirror to his own unyielding will. "You were mine all along then, protecting the family from inside." The words carried weight, a vow amid the peril, his possessiveness softening into partnership. A sharp crack echoed from the road, tires screeching as Fed vans converged, blue lights piercing the downpour without sirens, a tactical takedown. Victor's team returned fire, suppressed rounds pinging off vehicle hulls, but the drone adjusted, broadcasting their positions live. "We can't outrun it," Elena said, spotting a maintenance ladder on the container leading to a catwalk overlooking the river. Her ribs ached with every breath, the cold seeping deep, but adrenaline pushed her. "Up there, cut the power line to the docks. It'll blind them." He hesitated a beat, assessing, then nodded. Respect in his gaze, the man who'd fallen for her punch now seeing the strategist beneath. "Smart. Cover me." They scrambled up the ladder, metal rungs slick and groaning under their weight, the wind howling like a beast. From the catwalk, the scene unfolded cinematically. Victor's men executing a diversion, one SUV peeling out to draw fire while the others reversed toward the water's edge. The drone banked toward the noise, giving them a window. Elena led the way across the narrow platform, the river churning below, foam white under lightning strikes. The air up here whipped fiercer, carrying the distant bark of dogs, K9 units deploying. At the junction box, exposed wires humming with residual current, Victor pried the panel with a tool from his belt, sparks flying as rain sizzled on hot metal. Elena kept watch, pipe from the tunnel still in hand, scanning the shadows below. Footsteps splashed. Not feds, but a lone figure breaking from the tree line along the bank. Marco, unmistakable in his trench coat, burner phone in one hand, pistol in the other. His eyes locked on them, betrayal etched in his sneer. "Sophia, you should have stayed drowned," he yelled over the storm, raising the gun. Time fractured. Elena's full name hit like a thunderclap. Sophia Voss, the whistleblower who'd punched her way into Victor's orbit. She swung the pipe down, but Victor was faster, firing from the catwalk edge. The shot went wide in the wind, Marco ducking behind a piling. "He jammed the safe house signals," Victor growled, yanking a wire free. The dock lights flickered out in a cascade, plunging the area into darkness save for the drone's stubborn red eye. It wobbled, feed disrupted, but not before Marco fired back. A round whizzing past Elena's shoulder, embedding in the railing with a twang. They dropped to the catwalk, Victor pulling her down as more shots peppered the metal. Below, the convoy honked urgently, engines revving for exfil. Marco's voice carried up, laced with desperation. "The ledger's gone, Russo. She's the only one who knows the codes now. Hand her over or the feds take us all." Victor's response was a single cold shot that silenced him temporarily, forcing retreat. But the damage lingered. Marco's words a poison, exposing the fracture in Victor's empire. Elena, Sophia now, the name settling like truth, met Victor's gaze in the blackout's gloom. I didn't steal from you. I saved you. His nod was fierce, hand cupping her face briefly, thumb brushing her rain-slicked cheek. The intimacy burned, autonomy yielding to shared stakes, his love a code rewritten by her defiance. Then we end this together. They rappelled down the container side, ropes improvised from belts and jacket ties, landing in the mud as the convoy surged forward. Tires spun on wet gravel, doors flying open. But as they piled into the lead SUV, the drone recovered, its light sweeping back. And Marco's silhouette reappeared on the bank, waving reinforcements from the shadows. Had he called in the cavalry, or was there another traitor in the convoy's midst? The engine roared to life, but the unanswered question hung heavy. Who else knew Sophia's secrets, and would Victor's code survive the unraveling? The SUV lurched forward through the downpour, tires hydroplaning on the slick river road as the driver floored it, weaving past abandoned loading docks shrouded in fog. Sophia. The name anchored her now, a lifeline amid the storm, huddled in the back seat beside Victor, the leather creaking under their weight. The air inside was thick with the scent of wet wool and cordite, the heater blasting futilely against the chill seeping through the cracks. Victor's arm remained around her shoulders, a possessive hold that felt more like solidarity than restraint. His body heat cutting through her soaked clothes. Outside, the drone's whine faded into the gale, but its red eye blinked stubbornly in the rearview mirror. A digital ghost trailing them toward the industrial sprawl. Head for the secondary safe house. North side tunnels, Victor ordered, his voice steady despite the tension etching lines around his eyes. The driver, a stocky veteran named Rico with a scar across his knuckles, nodded without glancing back, his hands white-knuckled on the wheel. The radio crackled faintly, the blackout's disruption lingering, but a garbled voice broke through. Boss, Marco's van peeled off east, linking up with unmarked plates. Feds are scrambling choppers. Victor's jaw clenched, the bruise from her punch a purple shadow under the dashboard glow. He squeezed Sophia's shoulder, a silent vow amid the chaos, his code unyielding, loyalty now extended to her as the whistleblower who'd nearly died exposing his inner circle. Sophia's mind whirled, memories solidifying like puzzle pieces snapping into place. Late-night audits in Victor's dimly lit ledger's room, the hum of fluorescent bulbs and the scratch of her pen marking discrepancies. Marco's embezzlement wasn't petty. It was a systematic bleed. Fake shipments rerouting millions through Moretti fronts, all while Victor's empire expanded blind. She'd punched a guard to escape that night, the ledger clutched to her chest, only for Marco to corner her at the docks. The shove into the river had been meant to end her, but the current had carried her to Victor. Fate's cruel irony. He won't stop, she said quietly, her voice cutting through the engine's roar. Marco knows the codes I memorized. If he gets to the feds first, it's not just you, it's everyone. Victor's dark eyes met hers, the intensity there a mix of admiration and hunger. The same spark from her alley swing now deepened by revelation. Then we cut him off. My code doesn't forgive turncoats. But doubt flickered, human conflict raw in his tone, ambition clashing with the prudence her secrets demanded. He pulled a burner phone from his coat, dialing a secure line with thumbs that betrayed a slight tremor. Lena, it's me. Lock down the penthouse manifests. Cross-check Marco's access logs from the last quarter. Anything off the books. The response was terse, a woman's voice laced with urgency. Already on it, boss. But he's got eyes inside. Someone scrubbed the river cam footage 2 nights back. Your girl's in the frame. The SUV swerved into a narrow access road flanked by towering silos, their metal sides groaning in the wind like weary sentinels. Rain hammered the roof, a relentless drumbeat underscoring the rising tension. Sophia scanned the side mirror, spotting headlights weaving through the fog. Not the drone now, but ground pursuit. 2 sedans hugging their tail with predatory precision. "They're closing," she warned, her hand instinctively reaching for the door handle, autonomy surging against the cage of Victor's protection. He noticed, covering her hand with his own, firm, but not trapping. "We handle it together. No running solo." Rico gunned the engine, the vehicle fishtailing onto a gravel lot littered with derelict cranes, their skeletal arms silhouetted against lightning-veined skies. The lead pursuer, a black sedan with tinted windows, rammed their bumper, jolting everyone forward. Victor braced, drawing his pistol in a fluid motion, while Rico barked into the radio. "Flank 'em! Use the silos for cover!" The second SUV in their convoy peeled left, tires spitting mud, returning fire that shattered the sedan's windshield in a spray of glass. But the attackers pressed, one veering to block the exit, its doors flying open to disgorge 3 figures in dark jackets, faces obscured by balaclavas. Chaos bloomed. Suppressed shots pinged off the SUV's reinforced panels, the acrid smell of exhaust and gunfire filling the cab. Victor kicked open his door, firing from the hip to cover Rico's maneuver, dropping one assailant in a heap against the gravel. Sophia didn't freeze. She grabbed a spare clip from the seat well, instinct from her buried days in the ledger's room, where self-defense drills were as routine as audits. "Drive through!" she shouted, spotting a gap between the silos. Rico obliged, the SUV barreling forward, clipping the blocking vehicle and sending it spinning into a chain-link fence with a screech of tearing metal. They burst onto a parallel street, the penthouse district's glow emerging through the haze, high-rises piercing the clouds like fortresses. But the victory tasted bitter. Victor slumped back, a graze along his arm seeping red through his sleeve, the injury a cost of the night's unraveling. Sophia tore a strip from her jacket, pressing it to the wound without asking, her touch steady despite the tremor in her chest. "You're bleeding," she said, the words laced with concern she hadn't meant to voice. His gaze softened, hand covering hers again, the push-pull electric. His possessiveness a shield, her independence the fire that drew him. "Worth it. For you." The admission hung, a pledge forged in peril, legacy intertwined with her transformation from Amnesiac to ally. The convoy regrouped at a service entrance to the underground garage, barriers sliding open on encrypted codes that beeped softly. Inside, the air shifted, cooler, laced with the hum of generators and the faint ozone of security systems rebooting post-blackout. Victor's team fanned out, checking for tails, while Lena, a sharp-eyed operative in a tailored suit, met them at the elevator, tablet in hand. "Manifests confirm it," she said, voice clipped as the doors hissed shut. "Marco rerouted 3 shipments last month, shell companies tied to Moretti docks, and Sophia. Your access was flagged right before the river incident. He knew you were onto him." Sophia's stomach twisted, the reflective gleam of the elevator walls mirroring her strained face. Victor leaned against the rail, wincing as she tied off the bandage, his code cracking under the weight of betrayal. "Family first," he murmured, eyes on her. "Even the ones we find in the dark." But as the car ascended to the restricted floors, a soft ping echoed from Lena's tablet, an intercepted message, burner to burner. Target secured. Codes incoming. Russo's penthouse compromised. Victor's expression darkened. Was Marco already inside, or had the rot spread deeper? The elevator dinged open to the penthouse foyer, opulent marble floors stretching into shadowed halls. But the air felt wrong. Too still, the distant scent of smoke hinting at sabotage. Victor drew his pistol again, signaling silence. Sophia's hand brushed his, ready for whatever waited. Who had compromised the heart of his empire? And could their bond withstand the final betrayal? If this tale already has you hooked, hit the like button. It helps us bring more hidden stories to light. The penthouse foyer gleamed under recessed lights, marble veins threading the floor like frozen rivers. But the air carried an unnatural hush, undercut by the faint, acrid whisper of smoke drifting from the adjoining halls. Sophia's bare feet, still clad in borrowed socks from the safe house, padded silently on the cool stone, every sense heightened. The distant hum of the city below, the metallic tang of the elevator's lingering exhaust, Victor's steady breaths beside her. His pistol remained drawn, low and ready, the graze on his arm seeping fresh red through her makeshift bandage. Lena flanked them, tablet clutched like a shield, her sharp eyes scanning the shadows where ornate columns cast elongated fingers across the walls. "Perimeter breach," Victor murmured, voice a gravelly thread in the tension. "Lights low, no alarms tripped, means inside job." His free hand hovered near Sophia's back, not quite touching, a possessive instinct tempered by the trust they'd forged in the tunnels. She felt it, that push-pull, his code demanding he shield her, her resurfaced memories urging her to stand equal, the ledger's secrets now a shared burden rather than a wedge. The penthouse, once a fortress of glass walls and skyline views, felt like a trap closing, the storm outside rattling the floor-to-ceiling windows with gusts that mimicked distant gunfire. Lena tapped her tablet, its screen casting a blue glow on her face. Access logs show Marco's keycard pinged the service elevator 20 minutes ago. He overrode the fire suppression. That's the smoke. Manifests from the East Docks. He's been routing funds through ghost accounts for months, funneling to Moretti safe houses. The words hung heavy, confirmation of Sophia's fragmented recalls. Marco's office, late hours, the subtle discrepancies she'd flagged in whispers to a trusted contact, only to be labeled a liability. Victor's jaw tightened, the scar on his cheek pulling taut. Bastard played us all. My code. Loyalty above blood. And he twists it. Betrayal stung deeper than the graze. His empire, built on vows kept under pressure, cracked from within. They moved as a unit, Sophia slipping a compact Derringer from Lena's holster. Small, reliable, its weight familiar from half-remembered training sessions. The corridor opened to the main living area, a vast expanse of leather sofas and polished oak, the Chicago River, a black ribbon visible through rain-lashed panes. Smoke curled from the study door, thicker now, carrying the bitter edge of charred paper. Victor kicked it open, pistol sweeping the room, bookshelves gutted, flames licking the edges of a desk where ledgers lay scattered, ink running like blood in the heat. No guards, no bodies, but a laptop hummed on the floor, screen cracked but alive, displaying a partial transfer log. Codes verified, asset extraction imminent. "Marco's cleaning house," Sophia said, voice low as she knelt by the device, the heat prickling her skin. Her fingers flew over the keys, pulling up cached files, shipping manifests with forged stamps, dates aligning with her river plunge. One entry caught her eye, a burner call log, Marco to an unknown number, timestamped just after her disappearance. Witness handled, ledger secure. Handled. The word ignited fury, memories sharpening. His grip on her arm at the docks, the shove, the splash. She'd punched the guard to break free, but Marco had been the architect. He tried to drown me to bury this, but why burn it now? He's not done. Victor scanned the window, spotting a flicker outside, not lightning, but a silhouette on the adjacent rooftop, rain gear glinting under a tactical light. Surveillance. He's got eyes, waiting for us to bolt. The storm howled, wind slamming shutters, the penthouse lights flickering as if the building itself rebelled. Lena's tablet beeped. A proximity alert. Elevators cycling, 2 signatures inbound, armed. Victor's code warred visibly. Protect the family, but Sophia was no bystander. Her autonomy fueled their edge. We hold here. Draw him out. The power dipped, bulbs buzzing erratically, casting the room in strobe-like shadows. Sophia's pulse raced, the derringer slick in her palm, as footsteps echoed from the service hall, heavy, deliberate. Marco emerged first, trench coat dripping, flanked by 2 Moretti enforcers, their postures tense, hands near holsters. His face twisted in the firelight, eyes locking on Sophia with cold recognition. Sophia Voss. Thought the river claimed you. Should have checked the currents. No remorse, just calculation. The ledger's thief turned hunter, his ambition overriding any shared history. Victor stepped forward, pistol leveled. The bruise on his jaw, a badge of their unlikely spark. You sold us out for scraps, Marco. My code ends you here. Tension coiled, the air thick with smoke and unspoken histories. Victor's past loss, a brother betrayed in a similar coup, mirroring this fracture, shaping his unyielding vows. Marco smirked, gesturing to the laptop. Codes are mine now. Feds get the tip, Moretti's get the roots. Hand over the girl, she's the key you never knew you had. Sophia's grip tightened. She was no prize, her ethics clashing with his greed, independence the fire that had drawn Victor from the start. The enforcers lunged as the lights blacked out fully, plunging the penthouse into inky chaos broken only by the study's dying flames. Gunfire erupted, muffled pops, glass shattering from a stray round that spiderwebbed a window. Sophia dove behind the desk, returning fire blindly. The derringers recoiled, jarring her wrist. Victor's shots answered, a grunt signaling a hit, but Marco's voice cut through. She's the loose end, Russo. Always was. A scuffle near the door, fists thudding, Lena's cry sharp, escalated the melee. The environment turning hazardous as smoke choked the air, flames creeping toward the carpet. Sophia scrambled up, spotting Marco in the gloom, lunging for the laptop. She tackled him, the impact driving the breath from her lungs, ribs screaming in protest. They grappled, his hands clawing for her throat, but she twisted, knee driving into his side, a move born of desperation and buried skill. Victor hauled him off, pistol to temple, the fight pausing in ragged breaths. It's over, Victor growled, but Marco laughed, bloodied. Not yet. The feds are en route. Your empire's done. Lights flickered back, generators kicking in, revealing the cost. 1 enforcer down, Lena nursing a bruised arm, the room a wreckage of smoke and shards. As they zip-tied Marco, Sophia's eyes met Victor's. Raw, electric, the bond solidified in the fray. His hand brushed hers, a pledge unspoken, protection, trust, a future carved from this ruin. But Marco's burner buzzed in his pocket, screen lighting up with a message. Backup at lobby. Extract codes now. Victor's face darkened. Was the penthouse's heart truly compromised? Or did Marco's web extend to the streets below, pulling them into one final race? The penthouse's generators hummed back to life with a reluctant groan, casting harsh shadows across the wreckage of the study. Smoke still curled from the charred desk, its acrid bite stinging Sophia's eyes as she knelt beside the overturned laptop, fingers flying over the keys to lock down the final transfer. Marco writhed against his zip ties, his sneer twisted into a snarl, blood trickling from a split lip where Victor's fist had landed during the scuffle. The 2 Moretti enforcers lay slumped, one dead from Victor's precise shot, the other groaning softly, a graze across his thigh pinning him to the rug. Lena stood guard over him, her bruised arm not slowing her as she radioed the lobby team. Secure the elevators. No one up without codes. Victor's pistol remained trained on Marco, his stance unyielding, the weight of betrayal etching deeper lines into his face. Rain lashed the shattered windows, thunder rumbling like an aftershock, the Chicago skyline a blurred fortress beyond the storm. You think this ends with you? Victor said, voice low and edged with the gravel of restrained fury. His code, never harm the innocent, always protect the family, warred with the raw hurt of Marco's treachery, a past loss echoing in every word, his brother's similar fall to ambition, a scar that shaped his iron vows. Sophia felt it too, the push-pull of loyalty versus the independence she'd clawed back from amnesia, her ethics now intertwined with his world. Marco spat blood onto the marble, eyes flicking to his buzzing burner. Check the message, Russo. Lobby's crawling with feds. My tip, their warrants. You hand over the codes or they drag you all out in cuffs. Sophia's the prize. Her memory's got the full ledger sequence. His words were a desperate gambit, ambition clashing with the prudence of a cornered rat, but they ignited the room. Sophia's pulse spiked, the derringer heavy in her lap. The full sequence burned into her mind now, a cascade of numbers and routes that could topple empires or save them. She'd punched her way into this not as a victim, but as the key to Victor's survival, her fire, the spark that bound them. Codes stay buried, Sophia said, slamming the laptop shut, its screen fracturing under her palm. She met Victor's gaze, defiance meeting his resolve, the bond electric. Possessiveness yielding to partnership, trust forged in the tunnel's gloom. But the elevator pinged below, a distant echo rising through the vents. Footsteps, radios crackling with urgency. Lena's tablet flared. They're breaching the garage. 10 minutes tops. Convoys jammed at the tunnels, roadblocks. Victor hauled Marco up by the collar, slamming him against the wall safe, its digital lock beeping as he punched in an override. You sold my family for scraps. My code ends that. He zip-tied Marco's ankles, then turned to Sophia, hand extended. Not a command, but an anchor. We exfil through the service ducts. Old bootlegger routes to the roof helipad. Lena, rig the charges on the manifest room. Burn what's left. The plan snapped into motion, cinematic in its precision. Lena rigging a small incendiary from the safe house kit, flames whooshing up to devour the remaining ledgers, smoke billowing like a smokescreen. They moved fast, Sophia leading the way into the narrow service corridor behind the kitchen, its air stale with the hum of exhaust fans and the faint drip of a leaky pipe. Victor covered the rear, pistol sweeping shadows, his injured arm slowing him just enough to make her glance back, concern twisting her gut. The environment turned hazardous. The storm's wind howled through a vent, rattling loose panels, while below, shouts echoed up the shaft, feds coordinating with Marco's inside tip. They're tracing the burners, Lena warned, tablet clutched tight. Marco must have planted a tracker. Sophia's mind raced, memories solidifying the stakes. Her role as Sophia Voss, the quiet auditor who'd seen the rot, punched a guard to escape, and washed up in Victor's path. The ledger wasn't treasure. It was poison. Organized betrayal from Marco's ambition. Rival factions circling like sharks. They reached the duct access. A grated panel pried open with a crowbar from the utility closet, its metal screech masked by thunder. Crawling in, the space constricted, dusty vents snaking upward, the scent of insulation and ozone thick. Victor's breath came ragged behind her, the graze worsening, but he pushed on, his code a silent vow. No one left behind. Halfway up, the building shuddered. A staged diversion, Lena's charges igniting in the penthouse below, alarms wailing as flames licked toward the core systems. Blackout hit again, plunging the duct into pitch, their tactical lights cutting feeble beams. Sophia's ribs burned with each twist, but she pressed forward, emerging onto the roof helipad slick with rain, the chopper's rotors already whirring under guard from Victor's loyalists. Wind whipped fiercely, sodium lights from the helipad pooling on wet asphalt, the river a churning void below. But Marco's web lingered. As they sprinted toward the bird, spotlights pierced the storm, fed chopper inbound, rotors thumping like war drums, its search beam sweeping the rooftop. Victor shoved Sophia aboard first, then turned, firing at shadows emerging from the stairwell access, Moretti remnants, Marco's final play. A shot grazed his side, dropping him to one knee, blood blooming dark on his shirt. Go! He roared, but Sophia yanked him up, her arm around his waist, autonomy fueling the pull. No sacrifice, not on her watch. The chopper lifted, blade slicing rain, evading the Fed beam in a banking turn toward the lakefront tunnels. Victor slumped against her, breath shallow but alive. The cost injury, exposure of his fractures, but victory in the extraction. Below, the penthouse blazed, Feds swarming too late, Marco's empire of lies crumbling in the inferno. Sophia pressed a compress to his wound, their eyes locking amid the turbulence. The threat real, organized from within, but overcome through her secrets and his code. Hours later, in a nondescript safe house on the city's edge, walls humming with white noise generators, the air scented with fresh coffee and antiseptic, Sophia sat by Victor's bedside, his color returning under stitched care. The ledger's codes, encrypted and sunk. A digital grave. Marco, in Fed custody, his confessions unraveling Moretti ties, but Victor's core intact, refined by the fire. "You punched me into truth," he murmured, hand finding hers. The possessiveness now a gentle claim. Trust the true treasure. Protection earned. A found family born of defiance and vows kept. The adventure's scars lingered, but loyalty outshone the spoils. Memory restored, bonds unbreakable. Their future a chosen path beyond raw power. In the quiet, Sophia realized the river hadn't erased her. It had delivered her home. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible tales of loyalty, danger, and found family. See you in the next story.